Welcome to the Parenting Versus
Podcast. Sorry, I was stretching.
Don't be sorry.
I'm not really that sorry.
You're not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. It's Saturday morning in the Albuquerque, and
the 505.
In the 505, we're drinking coffee.
That's all.
We had French toast for breakfast. I don't know what other useless information can I share.
I don't know. We're out of whiskey. That seems like important information.
We're always out of whiskey. We never buy whiskey.
We did last week.
Yeah, you're right. We did.
Yeah. And now it's gone.
So yeah, I guess you're right. We are out of whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not anything really like I had in mind to talk about. You?
No, I just feel like we needed to kind of jump on the podcast train and do one while we have a few moments. We have a busy, fun-filled, holiday, event-filled week coming up, so I know it's going to be limited time.
Right.
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, last night we tried to be festive, and we were going to go to Old Town, which is it's a place. It's like a little plaza area here in Albuquerque, where that was like really old, and
Old Town?
it's really old, and yeah, it's called Old Town. It's really old.
It's called Old Town because it's super old. It's a town.
It's like original Albuquerque. It's like 17 something.
Mm-hmm.
But there's old buildings. If you're familiar with New Mexico, we have Adobe and plazas and chili ristras and stuff like that. But they had a big Christmas tree in Old Town that they were going to light with lights. And
wait, they were going to light them with
yes.
lights? Wow.
So we decided to drive, and once we got to once we got to downtown, it was like gridlock traffic, and
people were irate.
I felt pretty humbled too, because there was somebody in our community group was like, "Nope, I'm not gonna go because of traffic.
It's gonna be like you're not gonna find parking. It's gonna be crazy." And we were like, "It's fine."
I was thinking like, dude, settle down. It's all good. I'll just, I'm from Albuquerque.
I'm an exception.
I'm an exception. And honestly, if it was me by myself, I would have parked and walked the mile. But I was with the kids and Lindsay.
Yeah, it was downtown Albuquerque at night. Not
this room is echoey, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
We need to put some stuff around here, like a rug.
Tried that once.
Yeah.
Remember?
So. Yeah, we got to gridlock traffic. I was like, I'll just take this turn over here, and we'll try it again. I threw on Google Maps, because Google Maps uses machine learning and artificial intelligence to, map you where there's not that much traffic. But it turns out that apparently everybody has Google, because the route that said it was 4 minutes quickly became a 15, 20, 30-minute
Well, and
deal.
we were at the front of the line,
Yeah.
The people behind us, it was all of a sudden there was just crazy traffic behind us. There was nobody, and then there was everybody.
Right. And it wasn't just the Christmas tree thing that was happening last night. I guess River of Lights started.
Yeah. So it was just nuts.
Yeah.
So we surprised our kids and took them to ice cream instead.
Yeah, we took them to ice cream up in the Heights, and not the same thing, but it was still fun hanging out with the kids.
Well, we wanted to we had this build up for them of it's going to be a fun night, and I felt bad because it was we were super disappointing parents.
Well, Luke was like, "Is there a Christmas tree there at the ice cream place?" I was like, "Maybe." I don't know.
And then there was.
Was there?
Yeah. And so he was like, "Mom, there's a tree here," and I was like, "Well, great."
Oh, I didn't even see the tree.
Yeah, it was in the corner. So then we were pointing out Christmas lights. I was just trying to make it hey, surprise, we get ice cream.
Yeah. So, I was just wondering, hey, do you want to go sit in the other room where we have a comfy couch?
Yeah. All right, we're going to get up and walk.
Have you ever wondered about the history of the house that you live in?
Yes, all the time.
I think the people that lived in our house... I'm gonna hand the mic to you real quick so I can turn up the monitor so I make sure that they're not killing each other.
Well, so I guess to give you a little overview of our house, it's very New Mexican. It's flat roofed Adobe style house. The front room, which is a living room, and then our daughter's bedroom, which used to be an office, and then our bedroom and bathroom that was the original house. Like, that was it. So where our daughter's room is now used to actually be the kitchen, which is very strange to me. It was built in 1948. This whole neighborhood was a post-war era neighborhood. This used to be the furthest out that Albuquerque went, unless you hit the base. So there's a lot of military families moving into this area for housing and starting families. And so they built these houses on bigger lots with the intent that someday people were going to add on to the houses once their families got bigger. It's called Bel Air. No, don't get it confused with the Fresh Prince.
Let's not give them too much information. I don't want them to break into my house. And
I don't think anyone's going to break into our house. There's nothing to steal.
But I was thinking about like more recent history.
Oh, really?
Like the people that lived right before us.
Well, we have a little bit of information.
Because my mom gave us a treadmill, and when I was out there running last night, so I was just looking around, and like there's the guy that had the workshop before us. He was into motorcycles, and there's motorcycle stickers, and
I think he ran a business out of the workshop,
right?
Like a small repair business.
Yeah, I think you're right, because there's like graphs and stuff that he taped to the door, where you like measure.
Well, I found when we moved in, I found a box of old invoices and things.
And then before him was there was an old guy. His name was Rowley.
Raleigh?
It's R-O-W, Rowley.
Oh, okay.
R-O-W-L-E. Is it Rowley or Rowley?
Raleigh.
Okay.
Like Roland?
Yeah, and I found his little plans of his like carefully planned out little landscaping and stuff.
He was our yard. I mean, at one time
he was legit.
It was
he really thought out like the things. But the reason I say that is because I don't know, it's just really weird how the human brain works. I was out there running, listening to music on the treadmill, and I just couldn't shake this feeling like there was somebody behind me.
Oh. Have you been listening to that podcast I sent you?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay.
But I kept looking behind me. I was like, what is that? Like, so I'm like wondering, like, wouldn't it be weird if like
there's like residual hauntings?
If like somebody got killed in that workshop, or if like there was a lot of like negative stuff that took place, and I really wouldn't give it too much stock. But
per New Mexico law, they have to disclose if somebody has died in this house or been murdered. Anyway.
Yeah, but there have been many laws broken in New Mexico.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, our friends Mike and Jenna, when they were first looking at houses to buy their first home, and they still lived here, I remember them telling me that, and I said, well, what do you mean, like, they have to tell you if somebody was murdered? And I was like, why would you even ask that?
What if it's some other way they die? I don't think so.
Not if it's natural, but if they were murdered or there was a crime committed here, then yeah, they have to tell you. No, but Mike told me they went looking at houses, and there was one house that had a bunch of stains on the hardwoods, and they were like, well, what's that? And they said, oh, we have to tell you by law that somebody was killed here. And they were like, next.
It's like, oh, Breaking Bad is real.
Yeah, so basically, like, they were like, nope, not this house.
What? They killed a guy and they dissolved him in a gallon of, in a vat of...
Spoiler alert.
Of super concentrated hydrochloric acid?
Gross. That was the for Breaking Bad, that was the spot where I had to like really pause and reevaluate my life a little bit.
It ate through the bathtub. And
oh my gosh,
we should rewatch that show.
I don't know if I can right now.
I like that show.
I don't know if I can commit to that right now. Yeah, I don't know. I had some weird dreams last night because we started watching The Walking Dead season 7 again.
Here, I'll talk while you like are spazzing out right now.
I'm just stretching and my eyes are itchy at the same time. It's weird, I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, we started watching Breaking Bad. Wow, The Walking Dead season 7. We picked it up in the middle because we kind of stopped in the middle, and now it's on Netflix. So my brain was definitely thinking about that when I went to bed last night, and I was having some really strange dreams, like bizarre dreams. I don't know.
Yeah. That's nice.
Well, no, I mean, when I watch shows that are intense like that, like whether it's that or Breaking Bad or, like my mind, like apparently really hangs on to that intensity and it like comes out later.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
So you felt like you weren't alone in the workshop last night?
It was just weird, and then I just kept running, and it was all good. But I've had those feelings before where I feel like there's something around me, and it's just, and I know there's not. But I just have, I do know that because I looked behind me and there was nothing there.
No,
but
you just can't see it.
No, I don't believe that. But I just, it's just how the human brain works,
Yeah, well, your brain wants to make sense of things.
Mm-hmm.
I always go out there and do art, and I don't ever feel that way. But then again, I usually blast music like super loud, and
yeah,
like
I don't blast it that loud because I want to know if something's coming in the door, like you or somebody else, or whatever. I just kind of have it halfway. But yeah.
I'm allergic to something. And
so I'm going to talk about my school day.
Yay. Okay, go ahead.
No. Oh, I have a lot of students that, have lots of different personalities, and it's really cool to see, how these kids are in high school. Mm-hmm. And it's funny how kids really haven't changed that much since I was in high school. Mm-hmm. As far as like the way that they are. Well, my high school is a little bit different though. It's weird. Like there's not as much of like the rocker population or like the skater population anymore. Like in all of my classes, I have one skater kid. He was wearing a Thrasher hat, and I was like, "Hey, I like your hat. It's a Thrasher hat." And it had green stems and roses and thorns, and I think that's like the Portland logo for Thrasher, it's Rose City. And I was talking. His name.
They just built a new skate park up there.
But yeah, it was really cool.
My friend went to the opening, said it was pretty sweet.
And then there's another boy who he is a reader. He loves science. He's into like science fiction. He doesn't really hang out with very many people. He's a small kid. Wears glasses.
He prefers his own company.
Yeah, but he loves Dungeons and Dragons. So you kind of know what kind of person I'm describing, right? On Friday,
would he hang out at that place we passed the other night where there was like no women in there whatsoever?
Yes, he would probably be there.
Poor guy.
We passed by a computer repair shop. It's called like the Lobo Internet or something. Or
no,
Lobo.
It's not a computer repair shop. It's It's like a new like comic and games den.
Oh yeah, comic and games den, and it's right by UNM, and we looked in the windows, and there was probably like 6 or 7 just nerdy dudes, and not a single female in there.
Yeah, it was pretty.
It's like,
sad,
that was me in college. But he was reading.
You didn't play Dungeons and Dragons in college.
I didn't, though. But I didn't really hang out with women either. So, I did play a lot of video games though. Yeah.
Those don't count.
Computer
simulated women don't count.
Well, I wasn't simulating any women. I was fighting battles on the galactic level.
Oh my God.
So
this is my life now.
Yes. So he was reading a book. He was reading actually. Game of Thrones. I was like, hey, how are you liking Game of Thrones? And he's like, yeah, it's good. I like the fantasy. And then he kind of talks really fast, and it was kind of a little bit difficult to understand what he was saying, but he was kind of just describing what he was thinking about the book, like very analytically. But he's
like, I feel like it's not realistic.
I was like, what's your favorite types of books? He's like, oh, I love Tolkien, I love C.S. Lewis, and all these fantasy books. And I was like, hey, my brother-in-law loves that genre, and he's actually an author. He's like, oh, what's his name? And I was like, his name is Ryan P. Freeman, and he immediately wrote down his name, Ryan's name.
Immediately.
And Ryan, if you're listening,
without hesitation, there's a high schooler looking for you.
I plugged your book a couple times to my students, but I was like, yeah, if you want to borrow the book, I have it, and I'll let you read it. And he's like, yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to read it. So I'm gonna bring it to school on Monday and let him read it.
Cool.
Yeah. So just wanted to real quickly shout out Lindsay's brother, Ryan P. Freeman. Check out his books, ryanpfreeman.com. Yeah.
Yep, there he is. So speaking of not being alone, I have to tell this story just to put it on record.
You talking about Georgia?
No.
Oh.
No. I'm not gonna tell that story. No. So the other day, my husband's over here correcting me with how to use the mic like I don't know already. So the other day being Thursday, I came home from work early. I was sick. I really didn't feel well. And I was like, okay, so the kids are at my mom's for the day. I'm going to go home and sleep because I feel like garbage. I had some kind of cold thing. I don't know if it's allergies or what. It doesn't matter. So I'm home. And I've got my tea and I drink it and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go get in my bed and like snuggle down for like 2 hours before I have to go pick up the kids. And I hear this noise and it sounded like a person making bird noises. So like, if you can picture like a person making the sound a crow would make, like you know it's a person, but like they're trying to imitate a bird noise. That's what it sounded like. And it was coming from what I thought was the side of the window by our bedroom. So I was like, oh my gosh, like Lorenzo came home for lunch and he's totally messing with me. And, you know, he's like making bird noises at me. I don't know why he would do this, but it made sense at the time.
For some reason, she thinks that I really like to scare her that much that I'm going to go through the lengths of climbing on the roof and cawing through the vents.
Well, it sounded like it was coming from the side of the window. So I thought maybe you were by the bedroom window at first, just like making bird noises.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Okay,
well, good to know. So I'm like, what the heck is that? And it's like loud and it's getting louder. I hear crying kids.
That's fine. They're fine.
And I'm like, it sounds like a person. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So then I like stop for a minute and I'm like, okay, it's not coming from the window. It's coming from above me where the vent is on the roof. So I'm like, okay, maybe there's a bird stuck in there or something. Like, that makes sense. Maybe it's just making distressed noises.
But right away, your mind, instead of bird, you went to human.
Well, because it literally sounded like a person trying to make a bird noise. Like, it didn't sound like a bird in the traditional sense.
The spirit of Edgar Allan Poe.
It could be, yeah. So I flipped on the air conditioning, like, in the vent just to try to, like, scare it or get whatever it was out. And it was, like, making really loud noises. And so I yelled up the vent. I was like, can you not? And then I was like, all right. So I walked outside onto the sidewalk and I faced our house. And all of a sudden, I see this huge, and I am talking ginormous, gigantic, monstrous bird, like, fly off of the roof and swoop down towards me just above my head. Like,
so you said it was a raven.
It was a raven.
Right? So really cool thing. There's a bunch of ravens, or maybe they're crows. I'm not exactly sure. But they hang out at Highland.
Ravens are huge.
Yeah. They are incredibly smart.
They're probably ravens then. And
so they can recognize facial patterns.
Well, crows can do that too.
They can remember you.
Yeah, for 3 years.
And crows, actually, a group of crows is called a murder of crows. Crows are so smart that they know you and they'll antagonize you and they will tell their friends about you. And
what a bunch of assholes.
And they'll stalk you on Facebook and
they'll start a smear campaign if you ever run for governor.
Yeah. They'll slash your tires. Right?
They'll go by your window and try to pretend like they're humans and talk to you.
The whole reason Trump got voted? Crows. They voted for
Crows for Trump 2017. No, but actually it's true. It was a raven. And they have huge wingspans and beautiful feathers, really shiny and black. I've just never seen one that close before. It was really kind of amazing. So this raven like swooped down and it flew off and I was just watching it like, why were you on my roof, dude? Like, I don't know. It was very odd. But yeah, and there's a word for a group of ravens too. It's not a murder, but it's like another strange term, and I can't remember what it was, but I started reading about ravens instead of taking a nap. And apparently they're very, very smart, and they can mimic human voices almost better than a parrot can. So it's interesting because I think that makes sense now that I'm like, it sounded like a person mimicking a bird. It's because ravens can actually mimic human voices. They can do it better than parrots. So, and they can mimic sounds. Like, apparently they can mimic sounds of, like, car motors and different things. So they're very intelligent, they're very smart, and they're very good at imitating noises. So it was just a weird experience.
That's cool.
Here come the troops.
Well, it might be time for a...
parenting pause?
Parenting pause. So we're going to take a quick parenting pause. We will be right back. Okay, we're back, and Lindsay has gone to the lab with some information about ravens.
Well, so I actually went to the lab a while ago, the other day when this happened, but I wanted to remember what it was called. So a group of ravens is called an unkindness or a conspiracy of ravens, which I thought was really interesting. And then I remember reading, too, something about them when I was doing a little research, just because they kind of creep me out, but they're also kind of fascinating. When they're teenagers, they join little gangs, like literal gangs.
When they're teenagers?
Like every parent's nightmare. Like their raven kid like goes off and joins a teenage gang for a while until they reach maturity, and then they mate for life.
Yeah. They have to be jumped into the gang, or they have to... What is it called? They have to commit some awful crime in order to, like, prove their worth?
Initiation?
Yeah. Okay.
So ravens, yeah, they probably have some kind of weird hazing initiation thing. But they literally live with a group of other teenage ravens until they reach maturity, and then they mate for life. So it's kind of an interesting bunch of facts that I learned about ravens the other day, just because there was one on our roof messing with me.
They are crazy.
They're super crazy.
Yeah. So, in this day and age, I can't believe I just said that. Oh.
Darn kids.
Speaking of things I don't say very often, so I'm a very, very strange individual. And
you're a very particular individual?
Sometimes I like... I don't even know why I'm saying this, but sometimes if I'm walking around the house by myself, I'll take on these characters and I'll like pretend I'm doing something or I'm making fun of somebody. So you know how like there are people who are in authority.
I think maybe that's just your inner monologue coming out.
People who are in authority and they're talking to a group of like their employees or whatever, and they say certain things that you don't say in like everyday language.
Like Michael Scott type things?
Yeah. Like it goes without saying, or what's another one that I was thinking of the other day?
I don't know.
I can't remember, but anyways.
You have like Michael Scott-isms that you throw at people?
Well, to myself.
Okay. It's like self.
And it was cracking me up. If I think of it again, I'll... It goes without saying, or there's different things that just people in authority, they say, but they don't. You would never say this if you're talking to somebody
in like a
one-on-one.
Context.
Right. Oh, that being said.
Oh, yeah. That being said. Yeah, that's
that being said. Those sort of things. Like, I don't know why those things are just funny to me, because you don't say them like...
Because they're like scripted. It's like scripted for a certain situation or context.
Or moreover, or what's more?
What's more?
Like, you'll read that, but sometimes if somebody's speaking to a crowd, like, they'll say those things. I don't know. Anyways.
Formal speaking, yeah.
The other thing I was thinking about was, you know, this day and age. That's what I was talking about. This day and age, with our technology and being connected all the time. We got internet back, by the way. Woohoo.
We're losers, guys.
Yeah, we thought we could go without internet. I guess that we could go. We did pretty good for like a month and a half almost.
Let's be honest, though. In this day and age, you sort of need internet to function in your day-to-day.
Well, we pay for 2 internet connections now, Comcast and T-Mobile, which I felt like was redundant, like unnecessary to have to buy pay 2 internet service providers for internet. You know what I mean?
Well, but we learned that we qualify for $10 internet, so that's not a terrible thing.
So I was thinking about, like, this day and age, how you're connected all the time. And all of this news comes through of politics, and, you know, the president makes news all the time, like # every single day.
Just kidding.
Every single day.
Not kidding. Sort of kidding.
And, I just sometimes I'll feel really discouraged. Like, I feel like our country's kind of either being forced to wake up, which is a good thing, or it's just completely crumbling and falling apart.
America's putting on its woke pants, woke jeans.
Kinda, but not really though, because a lot of people, like, there's a lot of crap happening in the news, and it's hard for me to like feel like everything is okay. You know what I mean? And a lot of this is tied to the religion that I subscribe to, which is Christianity. Although more and more, like every day, I'm starting to disconnect myself from that flavor of Christianity, evangelicalism, because evangelicalism is very much starting to become tied to politics, and it's just also starting to become very tied to supporting the wealthy and kind of forgetting about the people who are very much in trouble.
Well,
you know what I mean?
American Christianity is its own flavor of quote unquote Christianity, and it's mostly consumer and capitalist based.
Yeah.
And so in that, I don't think that it's necessarily accurate or biblically shadowed.
So I'm starting.
It's just Americanized. Yeah, I mean, it's really just Americanized Christianity because we're a consumer population, and we're driven by wealth. We're driven by patriotism. We're driven by all these other ideals that for some reason fit into that box of evangelical Christianity here in the United States. In other countries, I think it's a totally different ballgame, though.
Yeah. So I was wondering to myself, is this something that has always happened? Or is it just in your 30s when you just start to pay attention? Like when you're in your 30s, you have a time, you're at a time in your life where like these sort of things matter. Because I remember in my 20s, I was like kind of paying attention, but not really. There were things that are much more important to me, and that was finding a mate and finding a career.
I think there's certain things that overshadow your thought process in your 20s that in your 30s you've had more time to let those things settle.
Yeah. Like I kind of knew a little bit what was going on with George Bush and everything. I mean, or at least I heard from my friends, the young people who were just, really hated George Bush and thought that Barack Obama was our American savior and all this other stuff.
I went to anti-war protests and anti-Bush protests.
But why? Was it a social thing, or was it something that you really believed in? Like, did you have enough knowledge to like make a decision?
I absolutely had enough knowledge to make a decision.
So I can speak for myself that I formed opinions, but I didn't have that much information, that much knowledge. I didn't really care that much. Now that I'm in my 30s, these sort of things matter because, it's like self-preservation. Like I think of myself and how these decisions are going to affect me. But I think more importantly, my kids, right? Our kids.
But they have to come to those conclusions when they hit the age of 32. I mean, you can't map out somebody else's thought process or understanding process or process of caring about these things. You can't force that on somebody. That's something they have to grow into organically.
No, I'm not talking about their opinions. I'm talking about their lives and how policy and laws are going to affect their lives.
I get that.
So that's kind of the reason why, like, I think I'm paying more attention now. Like, I actually, I'll read news articles and I think about these things, and sometimes I try not to, but it's just hard not to. And I think I don't know, there's a balance to that. There's a balance to, like, how much you should care, but you shouldn't let it, like, overpower you or, like, consume you.
I also think it's the tone of where you live. I mean, I lived in Portland, and the tone there was very proactive. And like in college, like I said, I went to anti-Bush administration protests and things, and I cared.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like on a national scale too.
I get that, but it starts locally.
Sure, and I'm not even saying like I'm anti any one political party or anything. I just feel like there's a lot of division, a lot of divisiveness happening in our country. There's a lot of people who just. And I think information is just making that snowball. You know what I mean? You can get in a squabble with somebody back in the day and then leave. Now, you're constantly on the internet, and
I feel like we always come back to this topic.
I don't know. It's just something that's on my mind. I'll move on.
No,
so
I get it.
So going on to like Christianity, sometimes I wonder to myself too, am I right thinking? Like, do I need to be more like conservative with my thoughts and like, I don't know.
You should always question your own thoughts.
I always do. But sometimes I wonder, like, do people look, I'm sure people look at me as like, oh, he's going astray, and
who cares?
And well, I know I don't. And I'm wondering if that's the problem. Like, do I need to be more like strict with my own thoughts as far as like media? Like, do I need to like not watch Game of Thrones because there's nudity? Or these are things that I don't really care about right now. But I don't know. Lindsay doesn't care. So let's move on. Let's talk about something else.
No, I do care. I just feel like we rehash this topic over and over, and there's no right answer. It's something you have to think about, and it's something you have to think about on your own.
All right, talk about something else then.
Really come to like terms with.
All right.
Like, you can't care about what other people think or how other people view you.
I don't.
And you can have a conversation and you can come to some clarity by talking to each other.
I don't care.
Obviously you do, though. Because
no, I don't.
Listen for a second. because you're thinking about how it looks to other people. So you do care. Even if you think you don't care, you do.
No, I'm telling you, I'm not thinking about what other people think. What I'm thinking is, am I living the way I should be living? Am I doing the right thing?
Well, you have to define what the right thing is.
So what other people think that I'm doing, I don't really care too much what other people think, because this is my journey. I can respect what other people think and think about and like take in their opinion and take in, their advice, and I can observe how other people are acting and kind of compare myself to that and kind of weigh out and use my own discernment to kind of figure out what I should be. But I kind of wonder sometimes, are there some things that the evangelical groups that I'm starting to dislike? Is there something that they have right that I need to kind of go to?
I think
right now, I don't think so. Right now, I'm totally being repelled by the evangelicals in our country. I don't like it. But I wonder to myself sometimes, well, am I wrong? Anyways, that's sort of the thing that's been on my mind. But we can move on to something way more interesting than that. Let's talk about something that doesn't suck. What do you want to talk about?
I didn't say anything. I can't even, I don't get a chance to respond to you sometimes.
Okay, go ahead.
I think it's an issue of conformity. Socially, you want to fit in. You want to fit somewhere. Socially, everybody wants to fit somewhere. People want to have a definition of where they fit. Mm-hmm. And if you can't figure out where you fit, that's a problem, because you're a social creature. You're a human being. You want to belong to something. And it's hard to have one foot in and one foot out in a social group.
Kind of like that show we watched?
Yeah.
So we moved from Apple to Google, and
matter.
It does matter. That's the way my mind works. With that move, we got a subscription
I'm so burnt out on technology talk. I can't even. I'm getting agitated.
You're always agitated.
No,
your whole life is agitation. What? So hang on, Lindsay.
No, you can finish this podcast on your own.
Lindsay's walking away. Okay, we're back. We had to have a marriage break, and I am sorry for causing that. But anyway, we were talking about wanting to conform, and we watched a show, and I was bringing up technology because that's how my mind works. We moved from Apple to Google, and with Google we got a subscription to YouTube Red, which has these original programming shows, kind of like Netflix and Hulu do. But there's this one, I can't remember what it's called, but it's this guy, and he does these psychology experiments. The first episode, it was talking about solitary confinement and how after, I think, 72 hours, you start to have brain issues happen. So he did an experiment where he was in a room for 72 hours with a bright light. All he had was water and this liquid kind of protein shakes, a bed, and that was it. No books, no entertainment, no TV, no cell phone, nothing like that. And he basically was watching this guy going insane. And then the second episode, though, he was talking about conformity, and they had a group of people, four paid actors and a test subject, and then he was trying to prove a point of conformity and how we like to conform to people. And he would tell this joke to them that was not meant to be funny at all. It was it made no sense. It was just words. And the actors would laugh. They would laugh a lot. And then the guy or the girl that was there that they paid, or that there was the test subject, they would kind of look around for a second, and then they would start to laugh, even though it wasn't funny. So we and Riley does this too. Did you know that? Our 2-year-old, if we're all laughing, he doesn't know what the joke is, but he sees us all laughing, he'll start laughing, because we just have this tendency to do that. Then what was the other experiment? they had a group of people, and they gave them the experimenters told the test subject that they were giving them a shot of this like medicine serum that was going to make them hallucinate. The others were like, oh yeah, I can see all these different things and blah blah blah. And then she was like, well, I'm not seeing anything. She was good at first, but then after like the third thing they did, she was like, yeah, I can see those things. I can hear the echo. Like, she just wanted to conform. She didn't want to be left out. So how did that apply to me?
I just think that you try to define yourself. People want to define themselves in a certain group or in a certain... They want to fit because socially that's what human beings want. And so you have to question these things, and you have to break down your thoughts and your beliefs and your perceptions of things because you want to make sure that you fit somewhere.
See, but I think that's how me and you are a little bit different. Me and you, we don't do that. Like, if I were to conform, think about where I grew up. I grew up in a very Hispanic, like, culture. And by Hispanic culture, I mean, a lot of the Hispanic culture you see in Santa Fe and Albuquerque is
regional.
Like, kind of like, not really like gang culture, but sort of like gang culture.
Yeah.
Like, my cousin, when I was in, like the 7th grade, I have never been attracted to the lifestyle of like lowriders and hip hop, and in New Mexico they do these weird things. They wear really baggy pants. They wear the Nike Cortez shoes. They wear like a button up like plaid shirt, and then they'll wear a hairnet, like the old lady hairnets, and they'll slick they'll slick their hair back. They'll wear these sunglasses called Mad Dogs, and that's like the cool thing, right?
It's homie culture. I mean, really.
Yeah, like homies. Like, have you ever seen those little figurines, the homies? That's like where I grew up.
And it's comical if you didn't grow up in that. It's funny, but like if you live in New Mexico and you actually see like the culture in its context and it's real, it's actually very real.
Right. So if I were to have this desire to conform, that's what I would be. In fact, like I was saying, my cousin in 7th grade, she's like, "Hey, can I dress you up real quick?" Like, she gave me a homie makeover. Go watch. She gave me a homie makeover, and I hated it. I was like, I don't like this at all. And we walked around our neighborhood in Moriarty, and we happened to run into some other homies, some of her friends, and she's like, hey.
Friends that wanted to fight you.
Yeah, she's like, hey, why don't you go fight Gabriel? He's in the 8th grade. Why don't you fight him? And I was like, I don't want to fight him. I don't know him. I don't want to fight. I just don't. Like, I don't
have any beef with him.
I need to tell you something.
Those were some of the things that they would do.
I need to tell you something important. Can we have popcorn?
After a while, go finish.
In just a little bit, you can.
I promise I won't get it all over because last night, because the other day we were having symbols. Those songs. I didn't get popcorn all over.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Well, in a few minutes you may have some popcorn. Okay, so be patient, and I'll let you know when it's time.
Yeah. So that's an example of me not conforming. I did not like that, and I was okay with sticking out. And I had other cousins too that would just listen to hip hop, and it wasn't even hip hop. It was just like
gangster rap.
It was gangster rap, but not
South Park Mexican.
And it wasn't even South Park Mexican. It was like, but see, it was like the Ghetto Boys and stuff like that. But now that it comes full circle, I watched the Office. Was it Office Space?
Yeah.
Yeah, Office Space, and I'm like, okay, cool. I can.
It feels good to be a gangster.
I can get with some gangster rap now, but back in like the early '90s, when my cousins were like doing that and smoking weed in their big GMC. Jimmy, and they were all about getting big speakers and busting the bass. You know what I mean? I was like, nah, I'm not about this, guys. And still, even in high school, I did the skater thing, and I was into punk rock and stuff, and while my cousins were still, smoking weed and doing the gangster thing, I was like, no, I'm just not into that. You know what I mean?
I guess it's funny because that was conformity for you, but conformity growing up for me was like a totally different ballgame.
What was it?
Rich white kids wearing Abercrombie and Fitch. Like,
But
honestly,
you know what? You kind of
like,
you kind of have a small space in your heart for some Dave Matthews
I do. It's very small. It's very, very small.
and Forerunners.
Well, that's because I have a very good friend growing up in Portland that we used to listen to Dave Matthews and ride around in his Forerunner. Andrew. Like,
Oh, yeah.
that's just, I mean, that's
Yeah, I can get with the Forerunner because I love Toyota
straight,
trucks.
that's straight like Oswego for you. No, but like growing up for me, like, and that was always hard because I grew up in an area called River Grove, and they used to call us the Grove. We were like right in the middle of Lake Oswego and Tualatin. We were our own little tiny little thing, but we fit into the Lake Oswego school district. So we went to school with all of the kids that were in like Lake Oswego. Like, if you have never been there, you can Google it and God help you. You'll start hating your life immediately.
Do you realize how different we are?
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about how when you went to Lake Oswego with me for the first time, you were just like, people live like this.
No, it was insane.
I was like, yeah,
these
they do.
houses are some of the most beautiful, crazy. I mean, and
On a private lake that you can't go on unless you own a house
and
on
not,
it.
It's the most naturally beautiful place. There's these fir trees everywhere and ferns and
It's like upper class white paradise. It's ridiculous.
and the houses are just like these. You know, every house is intricately designed by some top-notch architect. Lots of concrete, lots
Unless
of glass.
you live in River Grove.
And it's beautiful. Well, now, I mean, we went to River Grove. We went to River Grove too, and the house that she was growing up in, and you know, that her parents' like first house, was selling for $500,000. So now River Grove is the next Lake Oswego. Like Lake Oswego back when you lived there was probably like kind of like River Grove.
Yeah.
And now Lake Oswego is like even like more like Beverly Hills than anything.
I don't know, but no, it's just interesting because I remember growing up like in that area, you wanted to fitting in was everybody had their Abercrombie, their North Face, their Columbia sportswear. You know, you had like there's a standard. Like people wore the Gap. I remember getting made fun of by some people because I couldn't afford that stuff, and I would go thrift store shopping because I like thrift stores.
You were popping tags before it was popular.
That's true. True story. No, I've always had an appreciation for vintage stuff. Like I still remember the very first vintage piece of clothing I ever bought.
Pop some tags today. I actually like that.
We should. I bought a vintage little black dress from the 1950s. I wish I still had it. It was amazing dress.
I'm gonna grab some coffee.
And I have an appreciation for things like that. And so I didn't mind thrift store shopping, but I got made fun of because I wasn't shopping at Abercrombie. And it's funny because I had Abercrombie clothes. Like my mom would go school shopping for me and I could pick like a pair of pants and a shirt. But I didn't even really like them. It was just sort of like to appease the status quo of high school, which is just kind of weird. Like, it was like I had these things. It was part of the uniform of living in Lake Oswego, but that wasn't really like who I was on the inside. It was just like what I had to do to fit in to some degree, which is stupid. It's really dumb. Having a daughter now and having sons, I really hope that someday they understand that that's not what they have to do or who they have to be. But yeah, I remember like my friends and I, like we would all have like a couple Abercrombie shirts and a couple pairs of pants and we'd just swap them around because our parents weren't going to buy us that brand new stuff. But there were some kids that we grew up with where every time a new shirt or a new line came out of Abercrombie, they had it like the next day. Like they had it. And I remember having some friends and going to the mall in high school in Lake Oswego, and their parents would just hand them their credit cards and be like, get whatever you want. And that was like, it was no thing to them. My mom was like, I can't just give you my credit card. Like,
did you ask her?
Yeah, because that was kind of normal.
Wow.
Like, I had friends whose parents would just hand them a credit card and be like, go get whatever you want. Like, and then, you know, there's me, and I had a job. I was one of my only friends that had a job at 15 because my parents told me, if you want those things, like, you need to get a job and pay for them.
Yeah.
And I did. So I'm over here spending, like, my $50 from my paycheck and trying to be really discerning about how I want to spend this $50, and my friends are just over there, like, you know, cashing their parents' cards, like, no big deal.
Do you know what that reminds me of? Is those movies in the 90s where somebody walked into, millions of dollars or whatever. Did you ever watch that movie, A Million to Juan?
Is that a New Mexico made movie?
No, it's not a New Mexico made movie.
A Million to Juan?
A Million to Juan.
There is a movie like that from the 80s. I can't remember what it was called. Can't Buy Me Love. That movie.
Yeah, there was a guy, his name's Juan. He's a comedian from like the 90s. I can't remember the comedian's name. But he runs into like a sack of like money. It's like $1 million, and he goes crazy and he goes on a spending spree. And then there's like Rich, the little Richie Rich. Mm-hmm. That's a 90s movie with Macaulay Culkin.
Blank Check. You remember that one?
Oh, and Blank Check, yeah. Those are the movies that, growing up in New Mexico where, even though like on paper we were on poverty, we were a happy family, I guess.
Yeah.
That you kind of fantasize about. You're like, man, how cool would it be to have like 20 Game Boys? I never had a Game Boy growing up.
I remember my friend getting a car for her birthday. Like, and I just looking at my parents like, well, when do I get my car? And they just kind of laughed at me like, are you serious? And I'm just like, well, so-and-so got a car. And so-and-so got a car. And they were looking at me like, we're not Oprah. Like, it's not like you get a car and you get a car. Like, no.
And you get a car and you get a car and you get a car.
But seriously,
I love bread.
But it's like so damaging, I think, when you grow up around that kind of wealth and it's frivolous because you come to expect things in life that aren't realistic at all. Like, that may be how things work in the bubble in Lake Oswego, but that's not how the world works. I think it can be kind of damaging sometimes. Yeah. I mean, there's still things that are in me that are Lake Oswego, and I'm trying to break those things down, but it is hard. There's still some residual stuff in there from childhood that I have to kind of grapple with from time to time.
Like you're waiting for your 7-bedroom lakeside mansion, or
my West Hills mansion. Buy me a big house.
Yeah, those things are beautiful.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
But it's like you have this mentality of like you don't have those things and you wonder why not. It's almost like I don't want to say it's what's the word I'm looking for? Where you feel like it's owed to you, entitlement. Entitled? But there's some residual entitlement there. And I don't know where it comes from because there's no reason for it.
Yeah.
I think it's literally part of just how I grew up.
Yeah. And no, that's fine. That is. I mean, you are a big part of who you are. Like when you're growing up. But
I just remember moving here and having it be straight, like kind of even culture shock, which is funny. It's funny now because I moved from like the richest white kids school in Portland to the richest white kids school in New Mexico. But even so, it was very different. Yeah. Sub Abercrombie for American Eagle, and there you have it. But I mean, it's just strange to me.
What's the store in the mall where all of their sizes are like 2 sizes smaller?
Hollister?
Hollister, yeah.
Ugh, yeah.
One of my friends in college bought some Hollister pants, and they had like paint splattered all over them. They were all ripped up and torn.
Probably like $500.
He paid like $150 for them. I was like, dude.
That's what I grew up with.
Why did you buy those? He's like, because I like them. They're comfortable. I was like,
or because
you look like a painter, but
or because you feel like
you didn't have to do the work.
Those things, but you didn't have to do the work. That sounds about right.
So, anyways, but as far as conformity goes, no, there's no more. Oh. You can have some of mine though.
Oh, thanks.
I'm using the what do you call it? Creamer.
Oh.
So. As far as conformity goes too, like, I grew up in a very, man, I hate that word evangelical. I just do. I have a hard time with it.
Yeah.
But I grew up in an evangelical house, very much evangelical house, and I remember growing up, and our church had had like we were part of Assemblies of God, thing. And they had a magazine that they would distribute every Sunday called the Pentecostal Evangel.
Those are 2 words that like freak me out.
Yeah,
like both of them.
The Pentecostal Evangel. And I remember one magazine. It was after Bill Clinton got elected in I think 1992.
Did he have devil horns?
Yeah, that'd be so funny.
Like,
it's like his presidential picture, but they like drew on devil horns. I don't know, but it was just talking about how our country is going down the tubes and Bill Clinton's awful and all this other stuff. And it wasn't because of Bill Clinton's character. This was before the Monica Lewinsky thing. I'm pretty sure. No, that was 90. That was 96, I think, wasn't it? Must have been 96.
95.
No, 95 was the election, and he took office 96. This was before Monica Lewinsky sort of deal. But I was kind of conditioned as a young kid to be Republican. Mm-hmm. And not conforming, like going into college, I'll be honest, like when the first time, so when I was a senior in high school, 2000 into 2001, that was when the vote for George Bush, the second Bush, W, was happening.
W.
And I was 17 at the time. I turned 18 after the election, but some of the students at my school were able to vote in that election. I didn't vote in that election, but the second time, Bush's re-election, I did vote for George Bush because I thought, that was my thing. I'm standing up for pro-life and, anti-government, all this other stuff that I was taught.
Mm-hmm. Because it all hinges on one issue, right?
Right. And the second time around, I ended up voting for Barack Obama because I was... Who was he running it? Was that Mitt Romney or was that the... No. Who did he run against the first time?
It was... Oh my gosh.
McCain.
Yeah.
He was running against McCain. So I voted for Barack Obama, and then I ended up voting for Barack Obama again against that was Mitt Romney. So
anyway,
just talking about like conforming, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
It's easy to compartmentalize and put things in boxes. Yeah. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
It's interesting when we like describe to our 5-year-old, like he'll ask me like, "Mommy, is smoking bad? Are people that smoke bad?" And I'm like, that's a hard question because...
Well, you can separate that. You can...
Speak of the devil.
In a minute, bud. We're almost done. So, you can kind of separate the things too. Do people who smoke, are they bad? Not necessarily. I mean, in 5-year-old language. Not necessarily, but the act of smoking is not healthy.
Right.
You can explain to him that it's not healthy.
But that's what I'm saying is that 5-year-olds compartmentalize into good and bad. They have a hard time understanding that somebody's character might be good, but what they do or the actions they take might be quote unquote bad based on their definitions of good and bad at 5.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I feel like we do that as adults all the time.
Right. So that's the thing I was just thinking about. Like, am I just a stick in the mud in Christianity? Like, am I an influence for bad on people? Like, the way that I like, cause I'm a little bit, I guess you can say, loosey-goosey on a lot of things. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I hang out with some people who aren't. And I'm just wondering, like, am I wrong? Am I a quote-unquote, like, stumbling block for people? Like, I think for myself, but is that just me being a bad person? I mean, I don't know. Am I... And not only that, but I have students, too, that I'm influencing at my school. And, I try my hardest not to share, like, opinion with them. I just kind of deliver the lessons, and I try to show them, kindness, and I show them that I care and all this other stuff. But a lot of times they'll ask me for my opinion. Sometimes the kids will straight up ask me, like, "Hey, mister, do you go to church?" I'm like, "Yeah, I go to church." Or they'll ask me some things about whatever I'm teaching about. And, I don't know. Sometimes I just wonder, like, am I doing the right thing?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's all context, but I think the best gift you can give somebody is to teach them how to critically think.
Right.
I don't expect everybody that I come in contact with to agree with me on the things that I think or feel or whatever, but I do expect them to at least try to think for themselves constructively. I think the biggest thing that frustrates me in those situations with people where you feel like maybe you're in the wrong is usually in those situations you are the minority and you're in a group of people who all have a similar thought process, and so you start to question your own thoughts because you're in the minority. And B, you have to wonder, like, have they actually critically thought through the issue, or are they just conforming because that's what they're supposed to do? Does that make sense?
Right. Has to be a two-way street, though. Like, you learn from each other.
Right.
If you disagree with somebody. So if you're expecting them to kind of look at the issue, maybe that's what I was thinking. Like, maybe I should look at the issue too and kind of think like, oh, what's your point of view? Like, why are you thinking this? Or or whatever. So,
I think about that with like issues like homeschooling.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of friends who are very adamant about homeschooling their kids.
Mm-hmm.
For them, that's great. Like, if they have really thought through the issue and they think that that's the best choice for their family, then by all means, do that. For me, though, like, after having thought about it and having thought about where I come from and all this other stuff, I'm like, I guess it just doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? But, like, it's not because I don't want, like, my children going to those sinful public schools or whatever. I feel like it's my job to teach my children to think, whatever context that may be in.
Right.
And I want them to have both perspectives. Like I want them to go to school and learn about evolution, and I want them to learn about creationism, and I want them to ask the hard questions, because that's the only way they are going to learn anything, is by asking the hard questions from both sides.
Right.
I don't think that, and this is me talking for myself, I'm not judging anybody else, I'm simply talking from my perspective right now. I don't want to shelter my children so that they're afraid to ask hard questions. I don't want to shelter them and protect them. Ice cream.
I don't know.
Now we've graduated from popcorn.
That's a hard thing to do, like with the kids too, because there's some things that you believe, and you might be wrong about some things. You know what I mean?
But I'm open to suggestion, and I'm open to thinking about those things.
Our job as parents is not to make little carbon copies of ourselves. They are people, and they're going to make their own opinions and decisions. And my deal is I want them, exactly, to think for themselves and to figure things out and to use their brains and to, you know what I mean? I think that's the most beautiful thing about humans, is that we have that ability. But on the flip side too, like, we're also parents and we're meant to protect our kids.
Right.
Well,
I think about safety. I think about school shootings, and I'm like, in that instance, I would homeschool because I want to protect my children.
Well, I'm talking about
I
was talking about like, not necessarily physical protection, but like just protect their minds. You know what I mean? Because like there is a lot of crazy thoughts out there. So, just like you tell your kids, like, hey, stay away from that ledge. You're gonna fall off. You're gonna die. Do I give them free reign on their thoughts on God, on their thoughts on prayer? Like, do I let Luke find out for himself, like, who God is and who Jesus is? Do I let, you know what I mean? Or do I give him my religious thought? Do I give him my religion? You know what I mean? Because he'll take it. He will take my religion. You
give him your nuggets of truth that you've learned for yourself. You give him what you've learned and how you've learned it and why. And you give him the tools to explore that for himself. Yeah. Because faith, whatever your faith may be, is not faith if you have not owned it on your own.
Yeah.
If your parents just hand it to you, or you grew up in a Christian home and so therefore you're a Christian, I'm sorry. Like, I'm going to say something and it's probably going to hurt a lot of feelings, but you're not really like owning your own faith. It's not, you don't own it if it's just handed to you. You own it because you've sorted through it, you've thought about it.
Just get me my ice cream.
There's no ice cream, bud.
I mean, just get me my popcorn.
That's not how you ask at all.
Please, can you get me my popcorn?
Yes, I'll pop you some popcorn.
But, it's because I know that everybody learns differently. And for me, I'm one of those people where my parents could have told me, don't touch the stove, it's hot, 1,000,000 times. But guess what? I'm still going to touch the stove because I need to learn from my own experience that the stove is hot. So some people learn in different ways than others. Some people accept certain truths and certain things in different ways than others. But I think that that's what is amazing about human beings. Like, we're not all the same. You don't have to pat it and cushion it for us. You need to allow us to think, because when we are allowed to think on our own, our minds learn how to evolve, and our minds learn how to critically think, and our minds learn how to process information. So kind of going back to that homeschooling thing that I had mentioned, and this is just an example that I can think of right now, but, for me, I don't see the point in trying to cushion and protect my children from that big, bad, dangerous world in school simply to enforce my own beliefs on them, because that only changes them. That only changes the way they approach the world. The world does not change. The world is they're still going to have to learn how to deal with outside influences as adults. And so for me personally, I feel like that's doing them a disservice because it's almost inhibiting them from learning how to cope with those things when they come up. Again, I can't speak for other people, and I can't speak for other people's decisions to homeschool or why they've chosen to homeschool. That's fine. I don't know. I don't know what the factors are for them. But for me, I want to give my children the opportunity to see, like, adversity. I want them to have the opportunity to be put into tough situations because that builds character, that changes things, that makes them grow, that helps them think, that helps them understand the world around them, and it also helps them understand other people. Not everybody comes from the same family that you do. Not everybody has the same opportunities that you do. Not everybody has the same belief system that you do. So how can we learn from those things instead of just shutting off and pretending like they don't exist because they're not in front of us right now? And maybe that sounds judgmental. I really don't know. I just have a very hard time with, like Lorenzo was saying, the evangelical community when they're very adamant about things like, well, you need to homeschool your kids because the world is a terrible place. Well, the world is a rough place, but there's there's other things to that. And if you want your child to be, like, from Christian terms, a light to the world, or you want your child to be a good influence in the world, you're going to have to know how to approach the world and everything that comes with it. So shutting yourself off from those things is not necessarily going to help anybody. It's not helping people that don't share the beliefs you do. And it's not really helping you because you're not challenging your mind. You're numbing yourself and you're creating a cozy little box for yourself to fit into. And that's not healthy either.
What were you talking about?
We're just going to
you're talking about, like, inheriting your religion?
Kind of, yeah. Just sort of.
Yeah, I remember one of my cousins was homeschooled for a while, and I remember thinking to myself, like, that would be so cool, staying home and just getting to hang out with my mom.
That would have been my worst nightmare.
And I don't have to worry about looking cool. I can just play video games and hang out at home. Like,
that sounds so lame to me.
For me, that sounds awesome. As an introvert,
that sounds terrible.
For an introvert, I didn't have to deal with, like, the politics of school, and it sounded awesome. But now that I look back on it, like, my aunt is not a trained teacher. She was not a trained teacher. Teachers go through a lot to be teachers.
Well, you would know.
And they are good at teaching. Yeah. There's no better person to teach your kid than somebody who is a teacher. Mom cannot teach. This is just my opinion. Okay?
That's fine. Well, you're a teacher.
Mom cannot, mom or dad or anybody at home cannot, unless they're like a retired teacher or something, cannot teach their kids as well as a teacher would, in my opinion. So
it'd be really hard
I'm
not
just
to
saying,
be, like, biased.
that's their job, right? Yeah. Like, education is not a do-it-yourself kind of thing, right? You can't just YouTube it, right? Well, I guess there's Khan Academy right now, which is really
maybe
cool.
You can.
Maybe you can, but Khan Academy is not the full experience, right? Like, you have to.
That's a supplement to something. It's not the full enchilada.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll show a Khan Academy video to my kids at school, but I don't know. I just feel like education is so important, and I mean, we can talk about more about what is important to teach our kids at school, right? Mm-hmm. Like, are the core subjects still important? Like, your science, math, English, and social studies, or do we need to talk more about, like, in fact, well, at Highland
social skills?
At Highland we have a class called ACE, where they teach them how to do resumes, and they teach them how to do they do mock interviews and things like that.
But so much of education at that age is also learning how to function socially within a community.
Right.
And a school is a small community.
Right.
And that's like the training ground for when you go out into the real world and the community gets a little bigger for you.
That's true. Yeah. I was pretty bummed out, though, because of budget cuts. We had to cut our metal working shop, our wood shop, our auto mechanics shop.
That's a bummer.
And we cut our computer-aided drafting lab.
That makes no sense to me. Those are actual skills.
Those are real awesome skills for the people in the community that we're a part of, but they cut all of those classes because of funding. And now that whole, it was called like the technology complex, whatever, is this big building. Now it's the wrestling room. They threw wrestling mats in there and they just wrestle in there now. So, I don't know. Those are really awesome skills. In fact, I would have loved to teach the computer drafting. And if a job ever pops up where that's available, I'm going to apply for that.
I actually signed up for shop class in middle school, and it was full. I never got in, but I wanted to take it.
Yeah, I took shop in 7th grade.
Yeah, it was always full. I never got in. I got into photography, I think, in high school, but I was never able to take shop class.
Yeah. So.
But that would have been a very helpful
How did we get here?
class for me. I don't even know. That's like the big question, isn't it? Who am I? How did I get here?
How do we go from fighting with each other, to this?
Who knows?
But
it's a steady stream of caffeine and thoughts, I guess.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Mentally prepare for a 1-year-old's birthday party this afternoon, so that's on my agenda.
Yeah, those sorts of things are fun to do.
Sure.
I just said that for you.
Oh, no, you don't have to say it for me. It's not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
But I'll go because I love this 1-year-old.
Yeah.
He's the cutest 1-year-old.
I do like to hang out and
we're going to
talk with people, but
parenting so hard later.
But yeah. I would also like to have some time with my family in the park or check out a Christmas tree and just kind of hang out.
I have a ladies' night thing tonight.
I know.
At the piano bar. Yippee.
Yeah, should be fun for you.
I don't know. I mean, it'll be fun, but I'm also like tired and I'm kind of like, I kind of just want to like Netflix it out later. I don't really want to go to a piano bar. Yeah. That means I have to put on actual clothes and makeup and wear a bra, which I'm not real stoked about. I'm going to be honest with you, people.
And if I keep drinking beer, I'm going to have to buy a bra.
You can borrow one from me. Wow. So, well, I hope everybody has a really great Saturday or whatever day it is that you're listening to. I wanted to give a shout out real quick.
Okay.
We can do the what are you listening to if you want. But
I want to shout out Google.
All right.
Just kidding. Lindsay hates technology with her passion.
I don't hate it. I'm just sick of talking about it.
Well, that's what's on my mind, dude.
Okay.
Did you tell everybody how awesome the ring is that I bought you?
No. Can I do my shout out now?
Okay,
You're
go ahead,
cutting me off. I wanted to shout out the Spooked podcast. If you like ghost stories or like just creepy little stories or creepypasta stories like from real people, this is the podcast for you.
Creepypasta?
Yeah.
What's that?
You can Google it.
Just tell me real quick.
No.
What's a pasta?
I'm trying to...
Okay, go ahead.
Good Lord. Can you guys tell this podcast is over? It's over.
Well, maybe we can make it longer. Tell me what a pasta...
You just Google it. You have technology. No, so if you like those kinds of things, check out the Spooked podcast. It is really interesting. It's really fun. It's done really well. People tell their own stories about creepy or spooky things that have happened to them. I can't stop listening. I have been listening for a couple days, and it's just like...
Is this creepy
wow.
pasta?
No. So check that out. There is also a group called Skin Effects Gum. I know it sounds weird, but it's like this social choir project, and they've done some music. It's very activist, enthused music. It's really good. Skin Effects Gum. They're Australian. Check them out. It's a great album. I've been listening to it. It's self-titled. Can't get enough. What are you listening to?
So, we migrated from Apple Music to Google Music, and I had to redo all of my playlists. Mm-hmm. So I was listening to Portugal the Man a lot this week, and it reminds me of our show. We went to a concert this summer in Los Angeles at the, what was it called? What was that place called?
Oh my gosh, I can't think right now.
It was a very legendary venue in downtown Los Angeles. But yeah, I've been listening to that Portugal the Man album. I'm trying to listen to the new Lecrae album because I listened to the interview of Lecrae on the Bad Christian podcast, and it was a really interesting interview. If you guys want to hear about how if you go against the flow in evangelicalism, how your career can very much take a hit, because that's what Lecrae did in his interview, and he talks about how his concerts went from like tens of thousands of people because he was like on their team and our evangelical team, and then when he started to speak out against racism and in favor of like Black Lives Matter and like social justice things, like Christians were like, nope, I'm out. Now he has hundreds instead of like tens of thousands. It's insane how much of a hit he took. But his new record is actually... So Lecrae, okay, I'm just gonna say, Lindsay's telling me to wrap it up, but when I have something to say, I'm gonna say it. Lecrae, his older records, I felt were kind of holding back a lot. right? This new one, I feel like, is not really even holding back at all. He doesn't have anything to lose anymore because the Christians have already said, no, we're out, dude. So he speaks up and says things.
So maybe it's more like woke than it was before. Maybe he's just being like...
He threw on his woke jeans?
He threw on his woke jeans and he's like, no, let's get to business, you know?
My jeans are gender non-conforming. So...
My jeans don't have sizes. That's... Oh my gosh. Okay. I feel like we should post that skit probably.
Yeah.
Very soon.
Yeah. So I've been listening to Portugal the Man, and then I'm starting to listen to the Lecrae album. It's hard for me to get into hip hop. It is, but some records that I'm really trying to get in as far as hip hop is To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar, and then his newest is called Damn.
Jeez, like when you go hard, huh?
And then
you're like, I'm not into hip hop, but I do like To Pimp a Butterfly. What?
But I mean, those are some. I'm really trying. Like, it's hard for me to get into hip hop because it's not my thing. But
I don't like hip hop, but sometimes I smack some hoes. Like, I mean, seriously. Like...
To Pimp a Butterfly was hard to get into because that's not my flavor whatsoever. But now, like 4 listens in, I'm like, oh, I can kind of get with this.
So for hip hop, the thing is, I think the beats and stuff like pull you in, but if you start listening to the actual lyrics and you find some hip hop that is actually like politically driven, it's very good.
Yeah.
You have to just find those lyrics that really like speak to you and really get you. Like,
right. Yeah.
Because a lot of hip hop is crap, but a lot of it is also really, really, it's social commentary and it's really good, but you have to really know what they're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's just like F this, get money, like, okay, that's obviously like hip hop, but like there's hip hop that's actually intelligent, that has really good messages behind it. And yeah, there might be a couple swear words in there, but they make a point. It's not just for the point of swearing, you know? So
yeah, so I don't know, we'll see if I can get into some more hip hop, kind of mix it up, you know. I'm kind of a pop punk, kind of indie, a little bit of hardcore stuff. I don't know if I shouted out this band last time, but Can't Swim. It's called Fail You Again. I heard of them on the Godspeed podcast, which, if you guys like music, I would recommend the Godspeed podcast. It's by HM magazine. And they interview a lot of musicians. They interviewed Aaron Weiss. Oh, I did talk about this last time. You
did, yeah.
They interviewed Aaron Weiss from Me Without You. And that guy is he's awesome, but he's a little bit off kilter.
Yeah, I like some old De La Soul, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
if you want to get into the old school, some old school 1985 De La Soul, that'll get you started.
Yeah. Yeah, and this week I'm also trying to listen to some of the new Newsboys. You know?
Are you serious?
Oh man, I love the new Newsboys.
Can you stop it?
It blessed my day.
I think I threw up a little bit in my mouth.
Just blessed my day.
Stop.
And then I threw back to some Carmen. Oh man.
Oh man. Stop. Okay, I think it's definitely time to wrap it up right now. The
Champion. Oh, dude, it's just the best. Love me some Champion. In fact, I might break all my secular CDs this week.
I want to put you out of your misery.
I'm going to break every single one of my secular CDs, and I'm just going to listen to Carmen day in, day out. Maybe sprinkle in some Michael W. Smith in there. And,
dear
oh, man. Praise the Lord.
You need to stop.
All right.
You need to stop it right now. All right, everyone.
So we're gonna end the show now. We're going to probably get in a couple fights today. You never know. I'm just kidding. We're going to enjoy our day and enjoy each other and respect each other. And get physical. I mean, not like that. Like, just like hug each other.
Wrap it up, dude.
Like, hug each other. I'm waiting for the song to load.
Oh my gosh. We have really...
Oh.
That's fine.
That's the wrong song.
That's all right. Go with it.
Hang on. I want the right song.
This is like painful. My apologies.
Well, you're not...
This is so bad.
You're not saying you didn't listen to Jesus music back in the day? Okay. All right, guys. You have a great Saturday. We'll talk to you guys on the next one.